So, what if Christ consciousness isn't something you earn through the right beliefs or the right church? What if it's a frequency, always transmitting, and your body is the receiver? Because if that's true, then the question isn't, how do I get there? The question is, what have I been doing that's been blocking the signal? That's what today's about. What I've actually done to get out of my own way. He said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. I spent years hearing that as an ultimatum. Believe the right things about this one man or you're out. But as my understanding of Yeshua has deepened, I hear something completely different now. I hear a master teacher, a skilled yogi, a man who had done the inner work at a level most of us are only beginning to touch. And I think when he said, I'm the way, he wasn't pointing to himself as an object to worship. I think he was pointing to a demonstration. This is what it looks like. This body, this practice, this love. This is the path back to source, to the frequency you came from. Follow this. Follow my example. Don't praise me, but this. The source is the signal. The body is the receiver, right? And most of us have never been taught how to tune it because the powers that be know that consciousness depends on your frequency, and your frequency depends on what you consume. From what you eat, the biological fuel you ingest, to what your mind takes in through media, entertainment, and more. And if they control those two areas of your life, they keep your body inflamed and your mind full of fear and scarcity. That's what I've been learning and actively changing in my own life. Slowly, imperfectly, with a lot of trial and a lot of error. And today I want to share with you what's actually moved the needle for me. Here's what I'll tell you about how this started for me. None of it was intentional at first. I wasn't on some enlightenment mission. I was just tired of feeling the way I felt, tired of the fog, tired of the low hum of disconnection I couldn't name, the sense that something was off, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. So I started making changes, small ones at first, the kind you make when you're just trying to feel like a human being again, like becoming more environmentally friendly and conscious. I cleaned up what I was eating, not perfectly, but intentionally. I started asking a question I'd never really asked before. Does this give me life, or does it take it from me? And I started making different choices, starting in the kitchen. For me, it was time to clean and clear the vessel, because it's next to impossible to hear from source, to tune into the right frequency when toxins, chemicals, and processed foods and fluoride are being used to dull the senses and cause dis-ease in our bodies, which then disconnects us from our spirit through low vibrations. So I want to free myself from this toxic agenda and share with you ways in which I think you can do the same. Here's what it looked like for me. Letting go of plastic containers, plastic cooking utensils, plastic water bottles, replacing them with stainless steel, wood, glass, copper, materials that have been used for thousands of years without leaching chemistry into our food and our bodies. I started thinking about what I was eating the same way. Whole fruits, whole vegetables, foods that are still alive when they reach your body, foods that carry life force rather than just calories. It started for health reasons, longevity, non-processed, no chemicals, clean. There's a principle I keep coming back to. Life brings life. When you eat something that's still vibrant, still carrying the energy of the sun and the earth, your body receives that. It's not just nutrition, it's frequency. Don't get me wrong, I grew up in a family full of hunters, barbecue, bacon, and cheese, so I get it. But on the other side of that, I started pulling back from eating dead flesh. Not out of judgment of anybody else's choices. You do you. At first, it was my inability to look at the science and continue to ignore the damage that it does to your body on a basic health level. Then it became out of an awareness of what I personally feel when I eat it versus when I don't. I was one of those who said I could never go vegan. But something in me gets quieter when I eat animals. Perhaps it's what the flesh carries from the energy of the animal and what it went through. And I need that quiet for the work I'm doing. I removed fluoride from my toothpaste and from my drinking water. That one felt small at first, just eliminating plastic. But then I learned what fluoride does to the pineal gland, the gland we're going to talk about here in a moment. And it kind of really stopped feeling small at all. I stepped away from alcohol, from pharmaceuticals that were numbing rather than healing. I started using plant medicine with intention rather than as substances for escape. I started fasting intermittently at first, then a full day each week, then eventually the sacred secretion fast, which is 3 days of water only timed to my lunar cycle. And what happens in those 3 days, I can't really fully put into words, but clarity, connection, focus, and energy are all parts of it, and something that feels like signal. I started meditating every morning, not when I felt like it, every morning. And before the meditation, breathwork, slow, deep, circular breath that opens the channel before the stillness begins. I started incorporating sound, specific frequencies, 432 hertz, 528, 963, the tones that ancient traditions used for healing and ones that modern day research keep finding biologically significant. Sound really does heal. I began studying true history, hidden history, the things that got left out of the version we were handed. And that ties into literally everything I've mentioned and more. And through all of it, I kept practicing gratitude, not as a thought, as a felt experience, something I drop into in my body, not just think with my mind. None of these things were done because I knew they would open me up. They were done because something inside me kept pulling me toward more life. That pull was the signal finding its way. Now I want to get specific about something, because once I understood this, everything else clicked into place. Right in the geometric center of your brain, equidistant from every side, sits a gland the size of a grain of rice. Every ancient tradition had a name for it. The Egyptians called it the Eye of Horus, the Hindus, the third eye, the Taoists, the mud pill palace. Descartes, one of the most influential philosophers in all of Western thought, called it the principal seat of the soul. For thousands of years, across cultures that really had no contact with each other, this tiny gland was held as something sacred, a point of intersection between the physical and the spiritual. And now science is catching up. And what it's finding is remarkable. The pineal gland is exquisitely sensitive to light. Its primary job is to produce melatonin, the hormone that governs your sleep, your circadian rhythm, the timing of your body's deepest repair work. But it only does that job in complete darkness. The moment light enters your environment, even the faint glow of a charging cable across the room, your pineal gland receives that signal and pulls back. The factory slows down. The window narrows. And researchers have discovered magnetite crystals inside the human brain, microscopic structures that respond to magnetic fields, the same kind of crystals that allow birds to navigate the planet using the Earth's magnetic field. I mean, what if human intuition isn't mystical at all, but biological? What if we really are literally built to sense things that our modern environment has been drowning out for decades? And then there's what the pineal gland also appears to produce, trace amounts of DMT, dimethyltryptamine, a compound associated with the most profound states of consciousness humans report. Deep dream states, near-death experiences, the moments people describe as feeling more real than real. The pineal gland also has a direct relationship with your reproductive system. Melatonin regulates the hormones that govern sexual development and function. This gland is literally a bridge between your life force energy and your higher brain. Ancient traditions knew the pineal was the seat of something sacred. Science is now showing us why, and modern life is doing almost everything it can to suppress it. This is why I removed fluoride. It calcifies the pineal gland full stop. This is why I use distilled water, why I supplement with Lugol's iodine, which is a protocol I use intentionally and carefully, not casually, to support pineal decalcification. there are other things that I've tried, and I'm sure there'll be even more that I'll come across that I want to try as well. Because if the pineal is the receiver, and I believe that it is, then keeping it clear and functioning isn't optional. It's the whole practice. Now, the Taoists, the Egyptians, and even Nikola Tesla all mapped the exact same nightly pathway for moving this energy upward. And there are 5 specific things most people do every single night that close that window completely. I've had to face every one of them, honestly, in my own life. And that's what we'll begin on the next episode, in part 2. So if this resonated with you at all, please hit subscribe, follow along, join in on the conversation, and check out the next episode. We'll go in a little bit deeper. I love you, and thank you for watching.